Okay, today we're looking at moving parts of manifestation. This is the Voice of the Mystic series, part 4. So I was reading this parable, and I got a whole different picture of it I'd like to share with you today. The kingdom of God is as if a man should scatter seed upon the ground, and should sleep and rise night and day, and the seed should sprout and grow. He knows not how. The earth produces of itself first the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. So if Jesus was talking about the kingdom of God as a coming event, this seems to me it would be a very strange way to explain it. Because again, if I was doing that, if I thought the kingdom was coming, I would do like your average televangelist does and get up and describe it, what it's going to be like. And of course, they connect a lot of devastation with it, drawing from the book of Revelation or Daniel or one of the apocalyptic books in the Bible. But why would he describe the kingdom of God as like a guy planting seeds? And the traditionalists probably would say, well, that's the growth of the church. It's like that's the idea of the further we go, the larger the church gets, and it happens in ways we don't understand. I don't think Jesus was talking about a church. I don't think he was even thinking about starting a church. I don't think he was thinking about starting a new religion. I think he was trying to help people understand Judaism and some of the basic ideas that were there already. But I've always thought about this as a process, that it's describing a process. And it is in one way, but not in another. In this parable of the sower, the man scatters seed, sleeps and rises as the mystery of germination begins. The earth then produces the result. Notice that even though each of these steps is presented sequentially, the intention is to call attention to the operational components within a single creative system. And that probably makes very little sense. But he's saying these things happen in sequence, but he's describing the way the kingdom works. And the way the kingdom works, the guy is sowing seed, he goes to bed, he gets up, and things happen. But not just during a season. He's describing something that's going on all the time. This is always taking place. So there are no real moving parts here. It is just the idea that every moment there are seeds being sown, and every moment germination is taking place, and every moment a new crop is coming up. So the crop that's coming up today may have been sown yesterday. So we're not talking about like the law of attraction. For example, you start thinking a certain way and you'll draw to you certain things. I'm going to elaborate on that in just a moment. But what he's talking about is the sower is your own internal center of power, your connection with God, your conscious connection or unconscious connection for that matter with God. You're connected to a creative process, something that's happening all the time. And the people Jesus was talking to did not understand that, probably. Their kingdom of God, which is why I don't like the term, because when you think of the kingdom of God, you probably think of 2,000 years in the past or 2,000 years in the future, something that's not here yet, or that was here, or that was hoped to be here but was totally gotten wrong. But he's not talking about something that's coming or something that has been. He's talking about something that's going on right now. There's another place where he talked about, like I said in the meditation, I'm the vine, you're the branches. He's talking about an arrangement that if you become conscious of that vine, and what is that vine? It is how you see your center of power. And if you see your center of power as this invisible presence, there's no limit to what you can experience. There's no limit to what you can envision. So if you're talking to a group of people that think, well, my life is predestined, there's not much I can do about it, he's saying no, that there is this inner vine, this inner center of power that you can connect to that will open your mind to a new level of life. And I've said before that life expresses through us as enthusiasm. So you take a person that's not too enthusiastic about their life, and they will have a life that doesn't give you much reason to get enthusiastic. But if you have a person that is enthusiastic with life, that's involved in everything they're doing and aware of everything that's going on, it's a completely different mindset. And I have been in both of those mindsets. I have been in a place where it didn't look like anything was happening, that life was a big drag. It's like the time that Beth and I got into the Colorado River and sailed through Grand Junction, that way. It was a very fun experience, but there are times when you're in water that just doesn't move. It's like a big pond. And so you've got to paddle through it. It's not moving, nothing's happening. Has your life ever felt that way? Like it's not happening, nothing's happening? And then other times, you find these little rapids you go through. There's nothing too serious between here and Fruta, but it's enough to keep you awake. So life is that way sometimes too, where it's exciting, and you find that when things like that happen, you start coming alive. If you're just meandering down the river and nothing's happening, you kind of fall asleep. You fall into a daze. You start thinking about how hot it is, or the bugs that are flying around your head, or whatever. You think about things that, all kinds of problems. But when you're engaged in the rapids, you come alive. Your level of enthusiasm is increased. That's life. And so where does that come from? It comes from you. It comes from within you. You're tapping into that vine. You're the branch that's producing grapes there. But when Jesus is talking about this with this parable, he's not necessarily even talking about the sequence of events that happen with the sower. Think of the running motor of a car. Many things are happening at the same time. Fuel ignites, pistons pump, oil lubricates, coolant circulates, oxygen's taken in, exhaust expelled. The running motor is not a future event. It is the present example of a perfectly orchestrated multitude of individual processes. So this is what Jesus is describing as the king. This is how the kingdom works. It's a running motor, and it's running right now. And things are happening. Seeds being sown, seeds are germinating. You sleep and rise, it's still happening. Then pretty soon you see the crop come up. First it's a blade, then the ear, then the full grain. It's a process. But he's saying this motor is running now. That's how he's thinking of the kingdom. The kingdom of God is like a running motor. He didn't have that luxury to talk about running motors back then. But if he had, I think he would have. But he's talking about a process that's happening at this very moment. And this is the moving parts of the kingdom. It's the moving parts of manifestation. In other words, you don't start the car, the car's running. When time and space comes into play, it comes into play when you decide, I'm going to get in this car and go someplace. I'm going to go to the grocery store, and it's going to take me 10 minutes to get there. So we start thinking time and space. I'm here, the grocery store is over there. It's going to take 10 minutes to get there. So we start thinking differently. So this motor that we are, this vehicle that we're in, this thing we call life, is a running motor. It's running all the time. The kingdom of God is not a thing that's going to happen. It's happening now. It's a running motor. The question is, where do you want to go in this vehicle? That's what he's saying. He's telling people who wake up every day and they think life is the same yesterday as it is today, and it'll be the same tomorrow, and there's nothing to look forward to. Well, they're in a running motor that is producing exactly what they expect. So it's a living thing that we are in. We're in this kingdom as a living thing. It's a running motor. Where do we want this motor to take us? That's the big question with the kingdom, and that would be the difference, because the people of his day would be saying, well, someday somebody's going to come and fix this problem. So he's saying, well, what if you got in your car and fixed it today? What if you went wherever you want to go today? Because the motor's running. Are you getting in the car? Are you just sitting there listening to it? Or not even aware of it? Not even aware of what it can do? Or are you still thinking someday this great Messiah is going to come? See, the Messiah did come. He showed up and he said, the kingdom is like a running motor. Get in your car and drive to wherever you want to go. He showed up and he told them what to do. And everybody said, but when's the kingdom coming? He's saying it's here. It's a running motor. It's here now. And it's all these moving parts. It's like a guy that goes out and throws seed on the ground and a process starts. What kind of seed do you want to plant? In a similar way, Jesus is calling attention to the kingdom not as a coming event, but as a present dynamically responsive process. He doesn't bother to specify the type of seed planted because this universal creative process will produce from any kind of seed. He's not talking about seeds. He's talking about the process. He's talking about the running motor. He's not talking about where do you want to take your car. He's saying it's ready. If you want to get in, go wherever you want to go. It's running. It's going now. So that opens up a whole new insight for me, or it did. It's like I've talked about this parable for 40 some years. And like yesterday or the day before, whenever it was like the first time it's ever occurred to me that this is like a running motor. That's what he's talking about. And it makes perfect sense when I think of it from that perspective. The kingdom is not coming. If it is supposed to be coming, he got it totally wrong, and I don't think he did. Although a lot of scholars do think he did, think he missed the mark, think that he was a failed prophet. But he was not a failed prophet. They simply failed to understand what he was talking about. That's what I think. I give him a lot of credit, a lot more credit than they do. To me, if he showed up announcing himself as the Christ and the kingdom's coming, and you get in the face of a Roman soldier and say that kind of thing, you're not going to live very long. Who wouldn't know that? We know that today. He would have been very aware of that. His cousin John just lost his head over that whole thing. John was an apocalyptic prophet. And so everybody lumps Jesus into that category when he is talking about the kingdom in a very different way than they were used to hearing. And it's just like a light came on for me in that regard. Neither does he associate the kingdom with the harvest. He's simply calling attention to the mechanics of the manifestation process. The kingdom functions like this entire assembly of components. The seed is being planted, the mystery of germination is taking place, a new crop is emerging. It's happening now. And see, we get into that too, this whole Google law of attraction, and you will get a ton of stuff. And it's usually connected with this idea of, if I think a certain way, or if I create a vision board or whatever, my vision board's full of grapes. I want grapes. So the law of attraction is not a cause, it's an effect. The law of attraction, the true law, is the law of expression. Connecting to the vine, realizing I'm part of something greater. This machine is running right now, and I tap into that, and I begin to, as Emerson said, nothing great has ever been accomplished without enthusiasm. I start getting enthused about the possibilities of life as I would like it to be, and I start seeing things differently. As I've said with the butterfly and the caterpillar, the caterpillar doesn't change the world. We're not here to change the world. We're here to see the same world in a different way, from a different place. That, to me, is the thing that defines the mystic. The mystic does not want to change the world, does not intend to change the world, doesn't need to change the world. He intends to teach people how to see the world in a different way. And how is that? This manifestation process is working right now. How are you relating to it? How are you, working with this manifestation process? You can create your vision board, put all the pictures on it that you want, and that is, in a sense, treating the law of attraction like it's a first cause, and it's really the effect. We attract to us what we become in consciousness. And I like to go, actually, if I was going to redefine kingdom of God, I would call it your center of power. I would clarify it in that way. I would call it your center of power. That's the kingdom of God. What you believe is your center of power. That's the kingdom. That's the deciding factor in your life. So if you think that, the vision board and all the stuff that we put, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with doing that, it's the consciousness from which we do it that matters, that makes all the difference. If I am creating some kind of a magic, rubbing the magic lamp, and the genie comes out and grants my wishes, that's how a lot of people see it. And doesn't work that way. It works like, okay, if you think the vision board is your source of power, then you are putting off your greater good. How many vision boards have you made that are now yellow, or they're stuffed in your attic someplace or in a box? I've made several in my life. I've done that, and I've been down that road, and I found value in it while I was doing it, but I rarely demonstrated things that were on my vision board. Because I think what we do is we put off into the future what we hope to demonstrate by thinking, it's here and I've got my vision board, I've got everything ready, I'm throwing seed out, but it's a future event. What if it's all tied together? That's the point I think Jesus is making. It's not a series of events. It is processes that can be divided up and examined, but it's all one thing. It's one motor running. And in that motor, there are many functions. There are many things going on. But that motor is running this very second, and it's running this very next second, and it's running, the one that was running a second ago is not running anymore because we have a new one running. It's always a now moment. That's what he's saying. That's how the kingdom works. It's now. So you say on the vision board, I envision whatever it is I want. And then I go about my business and I get a phone call that throws me off base, and I go back into this, nothing's going to work. I go right back down into it. So the the motor's still running when I do that. And so I go up and down. And that's why it gets so discouraging to try to manifest things through a process like this. If we understand, it doesn't matter what you manifest, you're still okay. If you can get to that point where you accept yourself as you are, and will I be happier when we get rid of these Romans? He was saying, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Don't resist it. Don't fight him. If you fight him, that's the motor running. You're creating a new thing. And that thing is eternal resistance. The Romans are always going to be the bad guy. That means, as long as they're here, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to be unhappy because the Romans are here. Or what about something like poverty? That's a pretty strong condition to be in. So it's my theory that when you're out of money, you think about money just as much as someone who has a lot of it. Am I wrong? We're just as materialistic when we don't have it, because we're always thinking about it. I've been there, and I know what I do, and I don't think I'm abnormal. Well, most of the time. I don't always think I'm abnormal. But we can be just as materialistic thinking about what we don't have as if we are very materialistic and are afraid to lose it all. I knew an insurance salesman that was he was in the $1 Million Round Table, and he had an absolute fear that one day he'd wake up and be in the soup line. And it's like he could probably live 4 or 5 lifetimes with the money he had and be just fine. But he came from a small town where everybody was dirt poor. He rose up out of that, became a very successful salesman. And in fact, I bought my policies from him, and I got to know him really well. That's how I got to know that there was this interior self that was scared to death of getting up every day, no matter what he had. His center of power was not in his money, and I can only talk about him because he's dead now, but his center of power was not in his money. His center of power was in the fear of losing it. So it's a very different thing. That was the mechanism he was kicking off every day. And he would, you would look at a guy like that and think, why would you worry about money? That's how we normally think. It's why would somebody that has all that worry about losing it? But you can't get into somebody's life and you can't get into somebody's head. If you grow up in poverty where truly, you go around through the summer without any shoes because you can't afford them. That's where he was. It was a very small town, Ava, Missouri. And it was, I went there several times, in my lifetime. He grew up when it was even smaller than what it was then. But anyway, it's the thing I'm saying, it's not what the world's doing, it's what you're doing. It's how you're viewing the world. That's how the kingdom works. It's a thing that's running all the time. It's a motor that's running all the time. So what kinds of seeds are you planting? Unlike the running motor of the car, no one starts the manifestation process. It runs 24/7. The kind of crop we get depends on the kind of seed we plant, and that means now, in this moment. This is the heart of the lesson. The creative process is in full swing. How do we make sure we get the crop we want? We plant the seed of expectation. If you get up every day thinking life is such a grind, you will not be disappointed. Life will give you what you expect. Brambles do not produce grapes or figs. Rise and grind. I like that. It's somebody comes up with something like this, that whatever you're thinking about, you can find it on the internet. But that's a person who is experiencing perpetual stress, some drama queen or drama king, whatever. They wake up in the morning looking for trouble. It's rise and grind. Let's start the grind right away. Let's start by worrying about what we don't have. Let's worry about those Romans. Let's worry about poverty. I was saying about poverty, Jesus was probably speaking to people who had absolutely nothing. But he was saying, that may be true, but can you make peace with your life as it is? Do you think that's possible? Most people would say, no, it's not possible. I need, something to happen. But he's saying, well, this motor's running, and if you believe what I'm saying, you can begin to change your life. He could even say, look at me, I was expected to be a carpenter, and I hate carpentry. I hate stone masonry. I hate hammering nails and sawing logs. I hate that. And I can totally relate to that because I didn't like it myself. And I did it because I had to at the time, it seemed. But he's saying, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get up every morning and teach these principles. And so he changed his life. And he would say, I think he would say to somebody, if I can do it, I'm just a human being, you can do it also. Because you're a human being and you're just like me, And you live in the same kingdom I live in. It's running. The motor's running. You know, do you want to begin to change the script that's being played? And it's not easy. You know, how many parables or how many stories did he talk about? You know, the widow that would go to the judge at night because she wanted him to change his judgment. And he said she goes and she bugs him and bugs him and bugs him until he finally changes his verdict, his mind. Whoever puts his hand to the plow and looks away is not worthy of the kingdom. He has several sayings that have to do with stay with it, stay with the process. The motor's running, so okay, I changed my thinking. I'm very excited about life right now. In the next 5 minutes, I take a dive emotionally. The motor's still running. So he's saying, okay, you do that, well, bring yourself back because the motor is still running. So it puts a whole different light on what we're doing. And I will be the first to admit that it is difficult to stay with this consciously all the time because there are so many distractions in our life. So many things pop up. So many stories we hear. I've heard a couple this morning, you know, that would, my heart would go out to somebody and, you know, they kind of, you drop down instead of saying, well, greater good is now unfolding in your life. You know, that would be the best response. No matter what happens, no matter how far somebody else goes down, you keep holding them in that light that they're in this motor, you're in the motor. We're both running in it together, and maybe they can't see the greater good, but you can. So, you know, to stay there all the time, I don't know how anybody could do it. I don't think Jesus did it all the time. I think he recognized the principle, but, you know, we get this story of him going to Gethsemane. He's got this thing going on like, did I make a big mistake here? You know, prayed 3 times, you know, for the cup to be taken, that I don't have to go through whatever I'm going to go through. I think he knew by then he was in trouble. Some versions of the gospel say he was sweating blood. You know, that's pretty serious. I've never done that. But I've been worried, but not that worried. So what it's doing is saying he's a human being. You know, he's a person like you and me, and he's going through these down times. And you could say, well, his life really ended poorly. But did it? You know, I don't know. It's like Beth said this morning, how did we end up here? I said, we didn't end up here. We've never ended up anywhere. She was talking about our, not here, I mean, but kind of our situation is we're dealing with now. You don't end up any place. You're in the motor. You're in the running motor. So it's always running. And it's just something that if you forget anything I've said, just think, I'm in a running motor. That's enough for this week, you know, to hang on to, because it's absolutely true. If you begin lifting your expectations, and I should have focused more on that, expectation, where are your expectations? That's the question we ask. That's what gets us back into that awareness. You know, I'm in this car, the motor's running, where do I expect to go? And if your expectations are that I'm afraid I'm going to lose everything, I'm going to be in a soup line or whatever, that's you know, what you're pumping into that motor. But if you begin lifting your expectations, planting new seeds, open to greater possibility, the same natural creative process responds accordingly. The motor's running. The question now is this: where do you want to go? So that, to me, is kind of an easy thing to hang on to, an easy image to hang on to. I'm not a mechanic, I'm not a car guy, but I do have a couple of them. But I know what that, I can relate to that, and I can relate to the kingdom. This thing is going on now. It's not going to go on, it's going on now. Easy? Okay? All right. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you for watching this week's program. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with others. We want to reach as many people as we can, and we appreciate your help. We have many subjects in our video lineup. So feel free to take a look. If there's a topic you don't see and would like me to address, just put it in the comment section. I'd love to know what's on your mind. Thanks again for your interest in independent unity, and have a wonderful week.